Shalom, my friend, we live in a world that exalts knowledge and diplomas, but has forgotten how to see, how to feel, how to be. We spend our days chasing promotions, platforms, and power, but in doing so, we may have lost the secret that heaven treasures most. I want to take you back, not to a cathedral nor to a throne, but to a playground. A small hand reaches up, a laugh echoes through the wind, and the eyes of a child gaze at the stars without doubt, without fear. And in that moment you behold the kingdom. Yes, Hugh, Jesus himself said, "Unless you become like little children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven." What is wonder? It is the first breath of a child as they behold a butterfly taking flight. The pause in their step as they stare at a snowflake melting in their hand. The wide-eyed gaze at a rainbow stretched across the heavens like the bow of God himself. Wonder is not weakness. It is the wisdom of the soul before the world teaches it to be numb. We were created for wonder. It is written into our very design. When Adam first opened his eyes, he didn't analyze Eden. He beheld it. Before he spoke a word, he stood in awe of the one who breathed life into his dust. That's wonder. The beginning of worship is wonder. The seed of faith is wonder. And yet, it is the first thing the world steals. We grow older and the light dims. The questions come. Doubt becomes intellectualism. Faith becomes foolish. And we start to call it maturity. But heaven doesn't call it that. Heaven calls it forgetting. Forgetting who made us. Forgetting what it meant to trust the sunrise and dance in the rain. We replace mystery with mechanism. The sun no longer rises because God called it forth. It rises because of planetary rotation. The storm is no longer the voice of the Almighty. It's just atmospheric pressure. The child once said, "God is speaking." Now the adult says, "It's just thunder." But the thunder is still His. The stars still declare His glory. The oceans still roar with His power. We've just stopped listening. A child sees God everywhere because they haven't learned how to blind themselves with logic and pride. They see the invisible because they haven't yet bowed to the idol of the visible. That is their wisdom. They don't need to understand everything to be in awe. They just need to see it. And yes, Yeshua said, unless you become like one of these, unless you humble yourself like this little one, unless you return to the place of awe, you will not see the kingdom. Not because the kingdom isn't there, but because it is hidden in plain sight. And only those with the eyes of wonder can find it. It is written that Moses turned aside to see the burning bush, but it wasn't the fire that was the miracle. It was that Moses stopped long enough to notice it. Wonder begins when we stop, when we turn aside, when we allow ourselves to be interrupted by glory. This is your call, this is your invitation, to rediscover the wisdom of wonder, to see again with new eyes, to stop walking through life asleep, to remember that every tree is a testimony, every breeze carries a whisper, every heartbeat is a gift not earned. Lift your eyes. Listen again, be amazed again, for it is not the hardened mind, but the softened heart that sees heaven. Let the child within you rise again. Let their voice be heard, and in doing so you will hear the voice of the Father saying, "Welcome back, my child." You see me again. The child rests in the back seat of the car, not knowing the route, not questioning the driver. The child lays their head on the pillow, not worrying if the roof will cave in. The child stretches out their arms to be carried, not because they are strong, but because they know someone else is. This is trust, not the kind that is taught in universities or debated in seminars, but the pure, unfiltered trust of a soul that still remembers what it is to be held. You and I, we were created for that kind of trust. From the beginning, man was not made to carry the burden of the world. He was made to walk in the cool of the day with God. But the moment Adam reached for the tree, the moment he said, "I will know for myself, I will decide, I will be like God," trust was broken. And from that moment on, humanity has lived with clenched fists and anxious minds. We build systems and storehouses, fortresses and fallback plans because we fear what tomorrow might bring. We seek control over time, over people, over our destinies, because trust has been exiled from the heart. We even approach God like this. We say we trust Him, but we demand guarantees. We offer Him prayers, but keep our hands on the steering wheel. But the wisdom of the child is this: they know they're not in control, and they're at peace with it. They don't need to understand the plan. They just need to know that the one holding their hand loves them, and that is the highest wisdom of all. The child doesn't worry about provision, because they trust the provider. They don't fear the darkness, because they know someone is near. They don't wake up in dread, because they have not yet learned to doubt the one who watches over them. The wisdom of trust is not found in knowing everything. It's found in knowing someone. Trust is not about perfect outcomes. It's about perfect presence. You see, the enemy will whisper to you that trust is weakness, that if you don't take control, no one will. But the voice of the shepherd says the opposite. Come to me, all who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. That is not weakness, that is surrender, and in surrender there is strength the world cannot understand. When the children of Israel walked through the wilderness, they were led not by maps or monuments, but by a pillar of cloud and fire. They were led by presence. Manna came not with certainty, but with faith. It fell from heaven each morning, not to teach them survival, but to teach them trust. But even then, the people longed to return to Egypt, because even slavery can feel safe when fear rules the heart. And so we do the same. We choose chains over trust. We choose control over surrender. We choose anxiety over rest, because we think it gives us power, but it only makes us weary. But the child, blessed is the child. They still believe. They still believe that a good father won't let them fall. They still believe that when they cry out, someone will answer. They still believe that when they reach up, strong arms will lift them. And so I say to you, return. Return to the wisdom of trust. Put down the burdens you were never meant to carry. Loosen your grip. Take your hands off the wheel. Stop measuring God by what you see, and start resting in who He is. Because He is faithful, because He is near, because He is the same one who carried you before you even knew His name, and the hands that held you then still hold you now. Let go, and in letting go, you will rise. A child walks through the world with an untainted heart. They don't know how to pretend, yet their laughter is unfiltered, their tears are sincere, their words are unpolished but true. They speak not to impress but to express. They love freely, they forgive quickly, and they see clearly, not because they know more, but because they carry less. This is not foolishness, it is wisdom. Wisdom of purity. In the world of men we are taught to hide. We build walls to protect ourselves, masks to impress others, and layers upon layers of pride to defend our brokenness. We become sophisticated in deceit, experts at crafting images, maintaining appearances, and hiding our hearts even from ourselves. But the child has not yet learned these ways. They are not divided. Their inside matches their outside. Their yes means yes, and their no means no. Their face shows what their heart feels. This is the way of the kingdom. Yeshua said, "Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God." And not the brilliant, not the eloquent, not the powerful, but the pure. The purity of a child is not the absence of knowledge. It is the absence of corruption. It is the presence of clarity. The child doesn't need to analyze to see beauty. They don't need credentials to believe. They don't weigh every act in suspicion. They believe the best. They hope all things. Their eyes are still windows, not walls, but we grow older and call it maturity. We say, "I've seen too much to be pure." But perhaps the truth is this: we've seen too much of the world and not enough of heaven. We've allowed the dirt of the journey to crust over our hearts until we no longer feel. We've lost purity not by accident, but by slow compromise. A glance here, a bitterness there, a lie too small to notice, a motive slightly shifted, and over time, what was once soft becomes hardened, the conscience. once tender, becomes calloused. The heart, once full of light, becomes shadowed by self. But the child still shines. They still believe in good. They still cry when others are hurt. They still give without calculating the cost. That is wisdom not learned in books, but born in heaven. Enemy fears purity because a pure heart cannot be manipulated. It cannot be bought. It cannot be tamed by the systems of sin. The pure heart hears the voice of God more clearly. It walks in the Spirit more freely. It worships without pretense and prays without performance. That is why the Scriptures tell us, "Guard your heart with all diligence, for from it flow the springs of life." Not your bank account, not your influence, your heart. Because if your heart is polluted, the river of your life is poisoned. But if your heart is pure, then your life becomes a channel of heaven. So, how do you return to purity? Not by striving, not by scrubbing yourself clean with effort or religion, but by repentance, by bringing your heart back to the one who made it, by letting him wash away the stains and restore the innocence you thought you'd lost. There is no shame that cannot be covered, no past too dark, no soul too broken. The blood of the Lamb is not just for forgiveness, it's for restoration. It does not just erase sin, it restores purity. So come as a child again. Let go of the mask, drop the sword, open your heart, weep if you must, confess if you need, but come. And you will see God not just in eternity, but here in the quiet, in the storm, in the whisper, because the wisdom of purity is not that it knows everything, it's that it sees clearly and it sees him. So what must you do? Become small, become simple, become childlike, for in a world of chaos, wisest among us are not the professors, the preachers, or the politicians, but the little ones who still know how to trust, how to forgive, and how to dance in the rain. And to them the kingdom belongs. So return, my friend, return to wonder, return to trust, return to purity, and you will see what the wise of this world never can. Shalom,